Gaudy stats. Good God, that's gaudy.
I wanted to start actually just asking you because, I was looking at this yesterday, Ben Simmons, host of Gaudy Stats, and I did not realize until I kind of really took a step back and have had some time to kind of breathe here in the last week. I did not realize that this was the first time in 11 years that the Suns had made the playoffs. Like, I knew it had been bad, and how's this for some cross-cultural promo here? You might say that they were in a little dark age and that they had a problem with their management, their MGMT. But I looked at their record. Sorry for that. But I looked at their record, and man, they were bad. Like, I know I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I did not realize just how bad they were. And when I have watched them play, and we'll talk about this Lakers series here in a second, but I guess my number one question for you, sir, as a resident, longtime resident of Planet Orange.
Yeah.
Yeah. My question for you is, did you expect it to come together this quickly?
It's a great question. I have never been a Chris Paul fan. It's well documented on this cast. I don't like his herky-jerkiness. I don't like how he flops every third play. He stomping around, throwing his body into people.
Yeah.
He's being a nuisance,
Hunting for fouls.
Yeah, and then it's just, oftentimes I found myself rooting for the team that, against the team he was on, those Clippers teams, and those really just unlikable Houston teams. Maybe I'm on the island there, but I just feel like
you're not. Very large island. It's a very large island.
And so, I remember when somebody on our chat, I think it was Geezy or somebody, was like, "Simmons, Chris Paul, what do you think?" I had to kind of talk myself into it because I just can't, in my heart of hearts, I cannot say that I love the guy, but I will say I did think it automatically gave them a chance to make the playoffs because Devon Booker can score. Again, this is a little embarrassing to say. I didn't really like those Suns teams with Booker, before this year. I am a Suns fan, tried and true, but as an NBA fan, in totality, I would often find myself, watching the Mavs, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
You're a Mavs fan.
Oh yeah.
And watching other teams where I like their style of play better and they had, a better chance to make the playoffs, blah, 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 blah. Just a bit more entertaining brand of basketball. So, and I was also disappointed when they took Aiden, I wanted Luka Doncic. I just thought it was a no-brainer, but Aiden has played great recently. Anyways, so, long story short, I thought they would make the playoffs. Now, I don't know if we want to get into it right now, but let's hold off the Lakers thing for a second because we can talk about if they would have actually gotten past the Lakers if Anthony Davis hadn't gotten hurt. I mean, I think it's a fair question to ask. Mm-hmm. But no, I am slowly becoming more and more smitten with his team. Unsurprisingly, I was, how would I compare myself? I was kind of like the guy who's been hurt too many times, in a relationship. And I didn't want to buy in. I kind of bought in right away with Dragic and Bledsoe and Isaiah Thomas that weird year, when they did all those weird trades.
Yeah. I forgot Isaiah Thomas.
That was the year after. Yeah. I mean, they had a year where they should have made the playoffs. I mean, they were just in a stacked West with Dragic and Bledsoe, this two dueling point guards, Dragic, the Dragon, just doing what he does. And prime Dragic. It feels weird to say that for some reason. I guess he's not. I don't think of him as that good of a player to be a prime anything, but he is. Anyways, so I immediately got sucked back in after the Nash era, ended kind of unceremoniously with Gortat. I'm gonna say Goran Gortat. What a name that would be. With Gortat, and just lumbering around. Anyways, so I kind of fell back in love, and then there were some real dark days, a dark age, and things got bleak, and there was the goats in the office, like these weird stories, like James Jones, like
Ryan McDonough, right?
Yeah, Ryan McDonough, who's now a podcaster, strangely. But no, man, I mean, I was just like, what are they doing now? James Jones, he seemed clueless at first. Josh Jackson is like the future, but he's
I forgot about Josh Jackson.
He's a head case kind of.
Yeah.
He still kind of is in a way, even
Total
though I like it.
Yeah.
I kind of like his game now. He's almost like underrated now playing with the Pistons, but long story short, I didn't see it coming like as soon as like 2 years ago. Or even before Chris Paul came. But yeah, when Chris Paul comes, you saw what happened in Oklahoma City. I mean, the Suns have more talent than the Thunder did last year. I mean, Schroeder, and Steven Adams, and
SGA.
Oh, SGA, of course. Yeah, I was trying to remember his name. Yeah, I mean, that's a ton of talent there. Oh, I'm sorry, in Phoenix, not as much with the Suns, but like Devon Booker is a bona fide scorer. He's not the kind of player I love. He's a volume shooter. He's like a career 35% 3-point shooter, which is not what I like. And he's kind of an overrated shooter. And I think, when you don't like the best players on your team, it's kind of hard to totally buy in.
Yeah.
You know what that's like. I mean, you've experienced that.
Absolutely.
If it was like Nash and a bunch of scrubs, I love this team. They're so scrappy. And I would be like living and dying.
Yeah.
But it was because it was Booker who, I don't know what it is. I think it's just the volume scorer mentality. I've never been a fan of those kind of players.
Yeah.
If you can do that efficiently, then I love you.
Right.
But I mean, he's a good, just regular field goal shooter. He's not like this dead eye that everyone seems to claim he is.
Yeah.
But I'm going on and on. But yeah,
I
just want to say, I've not been super surprised by the fact they got to the playoffs. But yeah, they're like the number 2 seed.
Yeah.
I mean, that was surprising. And I will say, and then I'll throw it back to you. Chris Paul, the way he closes out these games, like some great reliever.
Yep.
In MLS. Oh, sorry. Major League Soccer.
MLB.
Yeah.
And maybe soccer too, sure. He's a reliever.
Some great midfielder. Yeah, he's like a great midfielder who comes in. Like a Mike Che type. No, I mean these mid-range jumpers, the mid-range master.
Yeah.
Just wrestling the trophy away from DeMar DeRozan.
Yep.
Just saying, no, sir, I am the mid-range master. And I think he was 6 for 6 at one point in the fourth quarter last game. And it was something to behold. Although I will point out that in the games leading up to that, and part of that is his shoulder, I think he shot like 38% in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Including that game.
Right.
So he's not like he had a great game against the Nuggets this past game, but he hasn't been himself. Hopefully he can get healthy. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, and you and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here. You and I have never been huge fans of the mid-range game, just generally. Like watching Chris Paul shoot these like 17-footers where he sticks his ass like 2 feet out is just never. That's like not my idea of. That's not my sort of the highest plane of basketball that I can think of.
Him and Kyle Lowry with their asses, like they use them as weapons.
Yeah, and they both of those guys, just like Lowry 2 years ago in that finals, just playing. I mean, respect to Lowry, he's a hell of a player, but just playing like an absolute clown sometimes, like grabbing a player and like pulling him in, and then like throwing his hands up, like come on, right? And Chris Paul, when Chris Paul tries to draw the 3/4 court foul on a 3, it looks like something that you would see at like the Douglas gym. And it's like, dude, this is the NBA. Come on, man.
Yeah,
like,
man.
Stop looking for that call. You're like a 14th year player or whatever.
I know, and I think he kind of relishes that in his training. You can kind of see his face, like the little
Absolutely.
smile on his face
Yeah.
after he does something like that.
It makes him want to do it more.
Exactly, and you could say he got injured kind of flailing. I mean, a little bit of karma, his shoulder. He's always like putting his shoulder and like doing all these crazy things with his arms.
Yeah.
And even as a Suns fan, I gotta say, I mean, some karma that comes around with that floppage.
Yeah. I think so too. And Booker, I think trying to kind of put a point on what you were saying about his game, and speaking of things that we are kind of like mind on when it comes to sort of basketball philosophy, I didn't love how like when he talked, and I understand, I'm not trying to be unsympathetic, but like when I saw a little bit of his press conference after Game 6 when they closed out the Lakers in LA, and he was just like talking a lot about Kobe, and the way that you just described him as a shooter and as a volume shooter sounds a little bit like Kobe, does it not? And it's like,
yeah,
man, I don't know. I feel like Booker as a pure shooter, I think he is. Well, I don't know. I would.
Well, I got the stats in front of me. I mean,
I don't think he's going to be a better player than Kobe's been, but I do think he's a better offensive player than Kobe. Like, he's just a better shooter than Kobe, isn't he? Or did the stats not show that?
So his first 3 years, he was 42%. This is field goals. 42, 43, 46, 48, 48. So I have to look up Kobe here, but he's like a good, so he's a 45% career field goal shooter for like a volume shooting guard. That's not bad. I mean, that's that's similar to Bradley Beal or, so like that's in demand.
Yeah.
But like, I kind of, the years where I was like really checking his stats a lot and like, okay, what's he going to be? What's he going to be? He was just like a pure chucker, he was like 42%. And yeah, he had a great year this year shooting and a better year last year. I guess 46% 3 years ago, that's pretty good too. But, a lot of it's because of Chris Paul. I mean, he shot 48.9% last year without Chris Paul. So that's good. So maybe he's just becoming a better shooter. It's possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, RIP Kobe, but I've never been a Kobe fan.
Like, no, we're not that. He's not our kind of player.
I never enjoyed his attitude or his game. So I just naturally
about him.
I naturally didn't gravitate towards him.
Yeah.
That's why the Gotti retrospective on his career was so kind of negative. But probably have to revisit that though, because I do want to revisit every retrospective we've done about 5 times.
No, I loved that one though, because I just loved how honest it was. Because it was like you were vacillating between like, oh man, this is such a tragedy, but oh fuck this guy. When he was alive, fuck this guy. But man, this is so sad. But
well, actually, that was like after the one I first did of him was when he was still alive. But it's true. Like I talked about him after that, and I was probably wasn't the nicest thing. But
well, I mean, look, we don't have to get sidetracked on that. But I did. I mean, that was a horrible, horrible story. I was really surprised at just how affected I was by it. I mean, it was a very traumatic, upsetting thing.
It sucks not having him around, even if you don't like it. It sucks.
No, it's awful. Totally. But like. There did get to be a point like days and days after he was dead where people were like, well, he was just the best teammate. And I was like, hold on, time out. Right. Yeah. You can't just say like anything you want because he's gone, because he was not a good teammate. Anyway. Yeah.
You can just call him like a great scorer and like, kind of like, not quite Jordan, almost Jordan. A few people would say that about him. That's right. he tried to be like Jordan, but he didn't quite get there. Yeah. But no, like, I saw that. I listened to that press conference and it was a little nauseating, because as much as I like the success the Suns are having, I kind of had to roll my eyes, especially. And also I read this article with LeBron and he was, and I'm wearing a greatest of all talk shirt, by the way. I know they talked about this in their podcast. Yeah. But I read this article and LeBron was like, it was like he listened to Booker's press conference, and then he was like, now I'm going to respond to that. And he was like, yeah, I've talked to Book a lot. And because Booker was like, be legendary. I want to be legendary, and because Kobe always told him to be legendary. And LeBron was like, yeah, I always told him to be legendary. And I think he took that to heart. It's just
Yeah, I did this. Yeah,
just like LeBron, like
yeah,
I don't know, LeBron's a whole other can of worms.
yeah.
What I've realized lately is I don't like a lot of players.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like so many players annoy me.
I think LeBron sometimes, for all of his pluses, he can come across as contrived, but he does have this thing. The thing that um, I think he's just like a corny dude, and so I think when
Yeah.
sometimes people think he's being like fake, I actually don't think he's being fake. Sometimes I think he's just a lame ass guy. But like the things that get me are when he like tries to make it about himself when it shouldn't be.
Oh
And like the
man.
one that I think about most is like when he showed up after the Warriors beat them in like the cast, and like
Oh my
it's just
god,
like, dude, what
dude.
are you doing? Come on, man.
Dude, in the
But anyway,
theatrics when he hurt his
yeah,
eyes and he was
yeah,
like,
that
he
was it
just
was a
kept
lot.
blinking his eyes like, I can't
Yeah.
see.
Well,
I'm blind.
I said
I'm
in
blind.
the yeah, and I said in the chat, like he always knows where the cameras are there, and it did look like Draymond got him pretty good, but you would have thought someone had shot him like in the eye with like a paintball gun, the way he was like
Yeah,
walking around. But no, that's actually a good segue. I feel like to get into this because I'll just give you my kind of perspective on it first.
please do.
Uh, I came into it thinking, okay, the Lakers have the two best players in the series. Yes, they've been injured all year. Yes, they've been out of rhythm. They won a title in September. They won a title 9 months ago, 8 months ago, I guess, when they actually started the series or whatever it is. No, probably, sorry, less than that. Probably like 7 months ago because the
Mhm.
finals were in October, weren't they? But so I figured, okay, Suns have had a great year. They also haven't really been there, and I'll be honest, like I kind of knew some about their team. I watched them play some of the regular season. I watched them play a couple of really good, fun Friday night games. But I just figured, all right, if LeBron and AD are anything close to 100%, they're gonna kind of take over. And I definitely thought that was gonna happen. I thought they were, in command. Obviously, when they were up 2-1 with a game four at home sitting there, but I think what I looked at the more I watched that series, Ben, is yes, Anthony Davis was hurt, but I also think that the drop off for LA between their top two guys and the third guy was just much steeper than I realized it was. And it seemed much steeper, frankly, than it was last year in the finals against the Heat and on that playoff run. So basically, I felt like watching that series against Phoenix, I felt like if the Lakers, when healthy, had the two best players, the Suns had like the next seven best players, arguably. And I think that depth. Do you don't agree, or do you think so? I
Oh
mean,
no, 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 no. I do agree. Sorry. I kind of had to let out a fart there. I'm
no,
sorry,
that's
Paul.
okay. But no, I was saying I think that what came across to me by game six was that like, yeah, you could say sure. Well, if Anthony Davis were healthy, if Chris Paul were healthy, on the other hand, also, but like I feel like even if LeBron and Anthony Davis were healthy there, that rest of that roster was so bad and so inefficient when they played against this Phoenix team
Mhm.
that I'm not sure that they would have definitely won with if AD had been healthy. Like I think it's easy for a Lakers fan to say that, but I really don't know because
Mhm.
and I don't think that it was like I wouldn't say it was like LeBron was pretty good some of the time. A couple games he was all right. He like LeBron standards, he wasn't that great. I wouldn't call it like an arrogant performance. I mean, I think LeBron and Anthony Davis have certainly put on like what I would call arrogant performances
You talking about
before.
game 3 when he
Well,
was
just
backing down Crowder?
well, no, I just not even that. Just like kind of the idea of like we'll flip the switch. Kind of speaking of
Mhm.
the Shaq Kobe Lakers, they were the
Yeah.
classic like flip the switch team.
Mhm.
But I think, and so I don't think LeBron to me always plays his ass off. I mean, he kind of wasn't at the end there when they were down 30, but I think he just realized in the middle of the series, and especially when AD got hurt, I think he realized I do not have the horses that I thought I did. And when he realized that, and when he saw the matchup problems and all these dudes just coming out of the woodwork for Phoenix. I was like, fucking campaign, like washout campaign, just coming
Oh,
on and just like hitting shots. Jay Crowder's been
what a
on like 7
revelation.
teams. No, I know. And like,
Campaign, what a revelation. Even during the
yeah,
regular season, he had some good moments. No, I think your point is really good about the depth. And I want to shout out another young stallion, Mikal Bridges.
yeah,
That guy,
3-and-D guy, kind of, right?
I was trying to look up his standing reach for like an hour today. Couldn't find it. I guess it doesn't exist, but his wingspan is over 7 feet tall. I mean, he is a freak. He is a tarantula. He is an animal of another sort. And I don't even know what his ceiling is, honestly, because he's flashed some like little mid-range game. He flashed some mid-range jump shooting in the last game, and like he can shoot threes really well. He's like shooting 42% on the year. So I love his ceiling, but I think I'm a little torn on what you said, because I think you might be right. Davis wasn't even playing that well before he got injured in that small amount of time, but he did dominate the previous 2 games. They were up 2-1.
Yep.
When he goes out, the air gets sucked out of the team. I do think, and this has been talked about ad nauseum in other podcasts, but I think they missed those 2 athletic centers. They missed Dwight Howard and JaVale. I mean,
which is hilarious to say, but I think you're right.
Yeah, Marc Gasol he's a plotter at this stage. He's a galoot.
Stumps on skates.
Yeah, stumps on ice, stumps on skates. I mean, he couldn't stay in front of campaign to help us to save his life. I mean, campaign was just like you said in the chat, he was torching him in the pick and roll. And then who do they have to turn to after that? I mean, Markieff Morris. God bless Trez, but how many more times does he have to be exposed in the playoffs?
Man, it was rough. Like I was gonna say, I love nobody, like number one, president of the Trez fan club here, but the last 2 playoffs, Clippers last year when he was in LA against Denver, and then this time against Phoenix, when he would get put in pick and roll against a guard or a 3. I mean, he was just fucked, and because Trez is like at his core, Trez is a 90s NBA player. He's like an old school, right? But I mean, he is, right? I mean, he's not a shooter. You got rim runs, you got defensive rebounding. He's a 90s
NBA player minus the defense.
And like, I think he's like, if somebody's posting him up, I don't think he's a bad defender. I think he's average or above average. But when he gets put in pick and roll, good night. Like he's not.
Yeah.
He doesn't. His feet aren't quick enough. If he gets switched onto Booker, or last year he would get switched onto Murray like over and over and over again in that bubble.
Oh, it's painful to watch.
It was rough to watch because it was like, man, they are exploiting like this guy's exact weakness on the most visible kind of stage there in the playoffs. And I mean, it got to the end there where I saw people online saying, well, why isn't Vogel? Lakers fans were apparently mad that like Vogel wasn't playing Trez more. And it was like, look, I mean, if you're watching these games, like this dude cannot stay in front of who he gets switched on to. And when the Suns
tried
go
to put
small,
him in.
He tried to put him in. When the Suns go small, though, and like they got Ayton and 4 guys who are 6'6" or smaller, I mean, he can't. He's too small to guard Ayton, and any of the other guys he's playing against can get by him, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's like you got Mikal Bridges, who's 6'7" with that freakish wingspan. You got Jay Crowder, who's like 6'8", whatever, 6'7". You got even Torrey Craig, who they picked up off the scrap heap.
Yeah,
is playing great, and then they got Cam Johnson, I think his name is, who's been great. I mean, even Dario Saric, he can play in the post. He's a good post player. He's not a great defender, really, but and the list goes on and on and on. And of course, Ayton. Against the Nuggets, though, I think Ayton is going to have that game where he gets like 3 fouls in the first half or something, and then Jokic is just going to eviscerate them. And I am by no means thinking that the Suns are going to win this next series. They have a good shot, but I I just respect the Joker's game too much. He is so much fun to watch, and he's the bag of tricks that he has against Ayton is going to be on full display. And he destroyed Ayton in the regular season. Like, I know he didn't play great this past game, but like he had like a 29, 22 rebound game against Ayton. Like he destroys everybody, but Ayton, he was like licking his lips, you know? So I think after this game, they're going to regroup. They're going to come back. We'll see. I mean, they kind of have to win this next game, so they're going to be desperate. And Campazzo is going to be all up in Chris Paul's ass as he was.
JJ Barea 2.0.
I love that guy, man. He's so much fun to watch. I mean, I like the Euros. You do too, but that's going to be a fun matchup. Him and Chris Paul.
Yeah, and it's interesting to watch like the kind of, those like real lengthy 3s and 4s on both of those teams. I mean, I agree. I think it's going to be a long series. We definitely haven't heard the last from Denver, but it's strange, even in the era of positionless basketball, post Golden State. It's very weird for me to watch like Porter and Aaron Gordon on the floor against like Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder. And I'm thinking like watching
Aaron
those
Gordon
guys,
was guarding Booker.
No,
which I think was a good idea because he was giving him a little bit of trouble.
And he's a much better defender than like Porter is, isn't he? And Aaron Gordon.
I think. And Porter's not even finishing these games half the time.
Yeah, but
they got fucking Jermichael Green in there.
Yeah, right, exactly. Who I definitely had to look up. I was like, which Green is that? Jeff? No, not Jeff Green.
He looks like Jeff Green a little bit too.
Yeah, but so I, because I think when we were growing up, and even when we were like, in the 2000s, it's like if somebody asks you fundamentally, like, what does a player do? Describe Nash's game, describe Dirk's game, describe Tim Duncan's game.
I was in our wheelhouse, like late high school, early college.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And like I think now, it's like I don't even know how I would describe Aaron Gordon's game. He just like does a bunch of shit. Michael Porter Jr., it's like he's 6'10", but he just hangs out around the 3-point arc. But it doesn't seem like it's because he's not athletic. But
he's the weirdest kind of athleticism I've ever seen. It's like he can't move side to side, but he can leap out of the gym, and he can he gets block shots every now and then. But you're right. I mean, he's not a great defender.
Yeah.
And he's streaky as well.
Jay Crowder is built like Antonio Gates, but he also
he'd be a good tight end.
He can guard anybody. It seems.
I mean, when are one of these? Yeah, I agree. No, the wings, the wing explosion in the NBA is something to behold. Even like Mikal Bridges, who I just talked about. Mm-hmm. He's like the prototypical 3-and-D wing. Basically, he can shoot threes. He's got freakishly long arms. Yep. He's a great defender. Doesn't need the ball to be good. Gets lots of defensive stats.
Great draft pick, by the way, right? They got that in the trade on draft night with Philly.
Yeah, good call on that. Yeah, that was a great. I mean, they've drafted well recently. Even Cam Johnson, if it wasn't for Mikal and Crowder, he would be on the floor. And
I think they got a lot of shit for drafting Cam Johnson in the lottery, but they really need is for him to be a rotation guy in this kind of lineup, right?
I agree.
And that's the thing. Yeah, I'm looking through this lineup. Sorry, I was just saying, I'm looking through this lineup.
No, go ahead.
And I'm like, okay, well, Ayton is always just going to be defined mostly as not Luka and not Trey, right? Yeah. But he's still pretty good. Right? He's not a scrub at all.
He's great. He hit 20 and 10 against Jokic. I mean, he can do that every night against Jokic.
Yeah,
it's gonna go a long way. And he's played great in the playoffs. I mean, he's been
totally. Great. And Booker has been like a gunner, like you're saying. I just remembered, by the way, his second year, that weekend that we were in New Orleans was the weekend that he got 70. I don't know if you remember that, but we were sitting there watching like an NCAA tournament game.
Against the Celtics.
We were watching a game where De'Aaron Fox was absolutely roasting Lonzo Ball.
Yeah.
And you were following the NBA games. And you were like, guys, Devin Booker has 70 points. I was like, holy shit. And I just kind of thought,
it was weird to see. It was weird. They got destroyed. The team got destroyed, and he had 70.
Yeah, and and this is going to sound so offensive and so slanderous to Devin Booker, but I'm just going to say it. I kind of thought early on in his career, even though I liked his game, right? I told our buddy Osbo coming out of the UK. I was like, I like this dude's game. He reminds
Yeah.
me. At the time, I said he reminds me a little bit of Clay. I would revamp that a little bit because he's not nearly the defender Clay is, but like, I like his game of all these like UK prospects from that year. But then, a couple years in, seeing how he plays, seeing how they do, seeing some of the stats, it kind of seemed like, well, is it possible that he's just like, and again, this is my 2017, 2018 thinking, not now. Is it possible he's just like a really big Monte Ellis, which I think is probably the worst thing you can say about a player like that. But I didn't know if it was just like volume,
Yeah.
without much in the way of, tangible win-loss column kind of results, right?
No, I think that's fair. I mean, okay, so yeah, he's coming off 47 in a playoff game. So yeah,
Yes.
it feels weird to say it now. And he was masterful. I mean, the threes,
Mhm.
everything all came together. He's shooting over 40% from three in the playoffs. So
Yep.
he's catching fire. He's playing well. But I was right there with you, man. Like he was just, to borrow a Golliverism, he was an empty stats, bad team guy,
Uh-huh.
and
Generic praise.
yeah, generic praise, but it's true. Like he just wasn't inspiring, and he was not it was not translating to wins and losses. And I do think it's the Chris Paul effect again, going back to the little general that he used to call what's his name, Anthony Johnson, I think, on the Spurs, or was it
Avery Johnson.
Avery Johnson?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Avery Johnson. Little general. That's kind of what Chris Paul is like. He's barking at people, getting people in line.
Yeah.
He's playing great, and if he's healthy, we'll see, man. If they can get past the Nuggets, look out, because here's what I see. This is the path that I see for them. They could get to the finals. Okay.
Yep.
Now, if they meet the Nets, I don't fucking know what's gonna happen. I mean, they'll probably get eviscerated, but because the Bucks look, as you said, ultimate glass jaw.
So bad.
As I
it
said,
hurts me.
Coach Bud is the Flop Sweat Hall of Famer. He is completely. He actually now this year he doesn't have that grimace on his face. It's more just like it's like deer. It's like deer in headlights.
Uh-huh.
He's just like eyes kind of bulging, just kind of like everything's fine. That meme, like everything is fine with like the fire going on, like
the dog. Yeah.
Yeah, he was just kind of going through his normal rotations and stuff, and everyone's just like, "Dude, we're losing by 35 points. Like, what are you gonna do?" And he's just like, Giannis is coming out, 3 minutes left in the half, just like normal. It's just like, dude, you're clueless, man.
Chris Middleton, pick and roll, 20-foot jumper miss. Chris Middleton, pick and roll.
Chris Middleton, as somebody who put him in his DFS lineup the last 2 games, dude, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, he was like 6 for 26 the first game. This last game, he's 0 for 9 or something, and then he starts hitting shots when they're down like 30, like 25.
Yeah,
like, dude,
people are putting it on Giannis. I think Giannis has been fine. I think Giannis was actually damn good the first game, but like Giannis's teammates are not coming to play,
dude. I think it's a little bit on Giannis, and because he can't hit his free throws, and
that's true. Yeah,
but no, I think you're onto something though. It's the teammates. Like Brook Lopez is playing fine. It's Chris Middleton, man. Like it's him. Drew Holiday's been playing okay, but it's like they just
needs to be a lot better than he is.
I will say though, this Nets team, if they're hitting threes like that every game, like I don't see how any team can beat them. I mean, and this Joe Harris wide open 3 thing. I mean, he's just going to keep hitting. I mean, if you keep giving him wide open threes, he's going to keep hitting. He's like a career 45% like 3-point shooter. I mean, he's not going to miss. Like it's insane. But anyways, but what I was saying, going back to the Suns, I think if they can get past the Nuggets and the Jazz can somehow beat the Clippers, I think the Suns could beat the Jazz in the Western Conference Final. I think it's definitely feasible.
I agree,
especially if Conley is not 100%. But if they play the Clippers, I think that Paul George and Kawhi will be all over Booker. They're going to shut him down.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually what's going to happen with Donovan Mitchell, unfortunately. I would like the Jazz to win, but I think they're going to shut him down, and then it's going to be up to Joe Ingles, who I love, and old peg legs Rudy Gobert.
Stifle
who,
Tower.
yeah, he's great until you get him out in the perimeter.
That is
And
great. Yeah.
and if they have Batum in there at center and they're like switching everything and like, they get him out in the perimeter, it's going to be like against Houston a few years ago when Harden was just dancing him to death
Yeah.
and throwing his beard in his face, like you always say, rubbing his beard against his
Yeah.
face and just
Yeah.
blowing by him.
By the way, don't miss that in the Nets Bucks series. Not once have I been like, you know what this game could use is James Harden dribbling for 18 seconds and then missing a three.
I saw some take on Twitter. Some guy was like, if Harden was in this game, if Harden
They'd be
was
up by
playing,
80.
He was saying the Nets would be losing.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, what?
Yeah.
Because he like slows the game down or something. There's not
Yeah.
as much passing, which,
Definitely
but
a
it's
take.
true. Like it's a huge take. But yeah, man, I don't know. We'll see. I'm intrigued. I hope they can keep it up.
Yeah. Well, I will say on Booker too, one of the things that I thought was really impressive about him last night, so they close out Phoenix, they close out LA on what night was that? Thursday night? So they had 5 days off. Okay. Booker is just like never been more hyped in his whole career than he is off a 47-point game, right? Andrew Sharp
talking shit to everybody,
taking the victory lap, right?
Yeah.
The endless, no, actually, my guy, it's because of my guy. And then Ben Golliver's like, no, it's because of my guy. And then Sharp's like, it's because of my guy. It's like, guys, it's because of both your guys, all right? Both your guys are great, okay?
Guy.
It's a team effort here. But what I was impressed by, Ben, is how patient he was last night. I think Booker would have had every right to come. And I think Kevin Harlan at one point was even commenting on it. And
don't you just love Kevin Harlan? He's the best.
He's good. He's good. And who was with him? Was it Grant Hill?
I think Grant Hill might be with
Nets Bucks. He might have been.
I think it's Reggie Miller. It's Reggie Miller. Yeah. It's Grant Hill and Marv right now, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
Marv was a lot better in person. When he's on the remote call, he's not great. Lost. It's not good.
Real breathy and weird. But so I thought that they were commenting even that like some of what they were saying was almost kind of indicating like Booker was being a little on the passive side. But I thought he was being really patient. And if you look at the balance in terms of the shots, it was as though, and that's a credit to Booker and maybe to Monty Williams and the Suns staff. It was as though they thought Booker thought that the Nuggets would think, okay, I'm going to come out just gunning. I'm going to come out like 2006 Kobe against the Suns and try and score 50 again. And he really did not force shots at all. He looked to swing and looked for those kind of swing and skip passes to get guys open. And, the Suns basically did in part because of that, they shot them off the court in the second half. And, the Nuggets certainly have capability of bouncing back, but I think winning that kind of game against Denver where, Jokic didn't have his A game, but like Denver didn't play poorly. I didn't think Denver played poorly at all. I thought Denver played reasonably well. And the Suns didn't need like a crazy Booker performance and they didn't need a crazy Paul performance. And that kind of goes back to just the way that this is all kind of coalesced.
And really balanced scoring.
More than we thought and probably more than anybody in Arizona thought too, really, right? Just like Cam Johnson and Cam Payne and DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges. And you look down this lineup and it's like, I'm with you. Like you're thinking this year, okay, I know that they finished in the bubble pretty strong, right? They were undefeated in the bubble or something, right? And that they finished
8-0 in the bubble.
8-0, yeah, and then didn't make the playoffs. But they had that to kind of ride into this season. But it's like anything else, where in basket in the NBA and sometimes in the NFL too, where you're thinking, all right, normally a team doesn't just go from like D or C level up to A level, right? They need to get to that one level. What's the classic refrain always? Like Jordan needed to lose to the Pistons. He wasn't just going from like not in the playoffs to NBA Finals. And that's kind of what I figured the Suns would be doing. But we look up here and their 3 wins doesn't mean they're going to get there, but they're 3 wins from the Western Conference Finals, which is just incredible. And like, I'm not going to do the Golliver Sharp thing where they just constantly bicker over who deserves more of the credit for that. Um, because, certainly Chris Paul deserves a lot of credit. Devin Booker is also really damn good in his own right, and it doesn't feel like, as much as Chris Paul has helped, when I've watched Booker, it doesn't feel like a lot of the shots he's getting and a lot of what's making him good on the court in that Lakers series and last night, where you're looking at it and being like, well, he got that shot because Chris Paul. Sometimes he's doing this shit when Chris Paul isn't even on the court. So,
No, man,
I
it's
think
true.
I think it's both of them. And I think it's the fact that Ayton, rather than turn into like Michael Olowokandi, Ayton is still like a 20 and 10
Candyman.
guy. And, he's a physically imposing enough guy
Oh yeah.
that, I take your point that Jokic, cooked him a little bit in the regular season. And I didn't really see those games. But last night, when he got in on the block and deep, like Jokic was screwed. Like Jokic couldn't do anything to stop him when Ayton got.
Yeah,
And so
Jokic is not a great defender, really.
when they let
To be
him
sure.
do the kind of simple things that he's good at, and I know that this is kind of an obvious and probably slightly lazy comparison, but I would love to see Ayton at some point in his career with the Suns, hopefully for your sake. I would love to see him with a point guard like Nash, a Nash-like point guard, where he could be like the Amari role. Because
I
it
mean,
doesn't,
he does have a nice little jump shot from mid
yeah,
ranger.
yeah. But I would just love to see that kind of pick and roll he can do. I know he's not as fleet of foot as Amari was pre, micro fracture, but I do think that he moves pretty damn well for a 7'1" guy. And
I think so too. I mean,
just seeing that, because it seems like a lot of what he's relying on is like it's lobs. He's watching guys in pick and roll. He's watching the ball kind of swing back and forth, and he's just kind of standing there and going to clean up the whatever rebound there is. But I mean, it would be interesting to see if he could be with a distributor. And Chris Paul does this a little bit, I guess, but I don't know. Do you think he could do that, or am I overrating his talent?
I haven't seen a ton of his pick and pop game. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's well within his skill set. He is, he's got some soft hands. He really has been playing mostly around the basket in these
Yeah,
playoffs. Like, I mean, his shooting percentages are like 80%, 90%. I mean, he's like just catching lobs and finishing plays and things like that.
yeah,
So his full repertoire has not really been on display, but
right.
I think it's possible. I mean, he's still really
Yeah,
young, you know. I
because
think
I'm
it's
thinking of every time Amari rolled to the basket and Nash gets the ball,
yeah,
has like a little pocket pass or split pass, and Amari
yeah,
just would
man,
dunk. I don't see
yeah,
why Aiden couldn't be, even if he's not 100% of Amari. I don't see why he couldn't be 80, 85% of what Amari was if he had the right guard with him.
yeah. I don't know if he can run as much as Amari because he is like
Bigger.
considerably bigger,
Yeah.
But at the same time, no, man. I hope it happens. Like post Chris Paul, I hope Booker will still be there, or they'll still have a solid team, and then they can kind of show more of his arsenal if he has it. If
Hmm.
he or maybe he will be more of a one or two dimensional player. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
And I got to give Booker his credit. I've been kind of shitting on him here and there, but the dude, I've been looking at his series against the Lakers. He put a 48.8 percentage field goal percentage, 42% from three, and 29 points a game. So, and
Yeah.
93% from the free throw line. I mean, he's like a great free throw shooter. So I got to give him his props with that. We'll never know what would have happened if AD hadn't gotten hurt. But at the same time, I think you're right to say that they have a damn good team. They're deep, and they still might have won it. You never know, man. I mean, you never
I would add
know.
to that too that no one, and I mean no one, is weeping for the
Hell
luck or
no.
fortune of the Lakers franchise, because they've
Hell
had more
no.
than their share of luck over the last 20 years. Um,
Fuck the
I do want to
Lakers.
mention, just to switch over for a second, because I do agree with you. I feel like, well, staying in the West for a second, I think the Clippers should be favored over the Jazz, and I actually expect them to beat Utah in that series. I'm not sure what Vegas has that line at, but
Utah. So this is interesting.
are they
Utah was
favorites?
favored by 4.5 in this game coming up tonight,
Uh-huh.
but it went down to 3.
Hmm.
So people are hopping on.
Have you seen a series line at all?
I haven't actually
Yeah,
looked that up.
because I just would think that the Clippers would be favored. I don't know. Maybe that's just again
Looking it up right now. I'm
me
curious.
thinking about the big players, but and I love Donovan Mitchell, but like that's another situation where it's like, well, Utah, they're not quite as green as Phoenix is, but they've definitely never
Yeah.
made a deep playoff run.
So the opening series odds says, let's see, Jazz open as -161 favorites
Hmm.
versus
So they're
Clippers.
favored, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
But this was before. This might be before
Conley,
Conley was ruled out. But still,
yeah.
I mean, I think they assumed he wasn't going to be
I'm a
playing.
little I'm a
So
little surprised by that, but that's interesting. Because I do think the Clippers are going to win that series, and I hope I'm wrong. I do not want to be right there, but on the other side, I think, and part of this is that the Nets were such an unknown because they just hadn't had their core guys healthy at the same time. But one of the things that I definitely underestimated or definitely kind of was off on thinking about how they would match up with the Bucks or any team that I felt like was, better than the Celtics, who were not really a real team when they played them, was just the idea that I didn't think that Brooklyn would be good enough defensively. Like I
I
didn't
didn't
think they
either.
had a lot of plus defenders, and honestly, I still can't really tell if they do. But if they make like 23s a game, it doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, yeah, I don't know what's happening on Blake Griffin. I'm
Do you think it's like a
astonished.
rope a dope or
I think I don't know if his body's going to hold up. Honestly, if he keeps throwing
yeah?
himself on the ground, but um, if he keeps playing that way, then who knows? But I still think, and Shaq and Barkley were talking about this, and I still can't stand Shaq. I don't know. He just drives me crazy, man.
Uh-huh.
I mean, even Kenny, like they say these things that are so fucking stupid, and they act like they're profound. I'm just like,
Hmm.
okay, Kenny, like it's not that smart, really. And I
Right.
can't think he was actually they was in talks to be like the head coach for the Knicks at one point, or like
Yeah.
he was going to be a front office guy, like Kenny Smith. Like maybe I shouldn't be so harsh, but
Well, no,
like
I mean, I read some stuff about how somebody that I follow was saying that like Draymond being on that panel for a few nights really exposed like the gap between like a guy who's been in the league in the last 20 years, and by that I mean an actual active player, versus like those three dudes. Because it was like this guy who knows way more about basketball than I do was like, this dude is so Draymond, talking about
yeah,
Draymond. He's so much better in studio, like right now, than any of these guys have been for like 15 years. When he's actually breaking down, like, you know,
yeah,
what a player does, what he was breaking down. He was talking, it was something about related to Gobert and like
yeah,
how people go at Gobert. And I did sort of wonder, well, that's interesting to think. Like, do they hear Draymond talking and pay attention to the fact that he's really good and he's probably going to be like in one of their seats one day? Because I think he will be, even if he annoys the hell out of me to watch. He's an incredible analyst and he's a great player too. But like,
yeah.
Draymond is really good at studio. And
Yeah, I agree.
but no, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't like if I look on paper and I look at if you just the old saying, right, they roll the ball out and you watch both of these teams line up at the tip.
Hmm.
I look at that and I'm like, I would think the Bucks would have some advantages physically
I
and just
know. Yeah,
defensively, like
yeah,
and it starts happening and the game just gets going and it's just like they can't score, they look tentative. You got guys who have been relied upon to hit threes who can't hit threes. You got guys who are plus defenders who are just it's like Brooklyn is shooting 60% and it's like it doesn't matter that they're plus defenders. And I just
it's just a
like
collective bed shitting, to put it mildly.
it's
I
and
mean,
like it wouldn't be So I wouldn't be so, and it's not just me, it's everybody I know, but like uh, I wouldn't be so quick to go with the glass chin label if they hadn't been up 2-0 in 2019 against the Raptors, and the Raptors won 4. And then they just got basically punked by Miami last year. And I do agree with you. Some of that is absolutely Giannis has to shoulder some of that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I also think Giannis has been good in some of these games, and
Yeah. I
he has
mean,
to
it's
be
also
looking at these teammates.
strategy.
And
Like
yeah, yeah,
they were doing more pick and roll with Giannis in the regular season where they would like give the ball to Drew Holiday and have Giannis set a pick and then roll the basket. It's just a good way to like not have, because you know how when Giannis has the ball, he brings it up the court and they form a wall, and then he's just kind of like dribbling around the free throw line or like even farther back than that. And then it's just like Giannis, yeah, shoot this jump shot. And he just doesn't really have that in his arsenal where he really trusts it yet.
hmm
And I just feel like it's a strategic thing with Bud. I mean, I like I always say, like I'm just a regular guy, I'm a fucking certified dumbass. Coach Bud is an offensive genius, blah blah blah. He's a great NBA mind, but dude, what the fuck are you doing, man? And I honestly, they should have. I don't want to be too harsh, but they probably should have found another coach last year. I mean,
yeah.
the way they went out, the way they got punked, like you said, basically 2 years in a row. This would be the third year in a row.
And it looks like it's going to be.
They got destroyed in game 2. It was laughable. It was a laugher, like, after the first quarter, so
It was done after the first quarter. Yeah.
yeah. So Coach Bud, I think he's going to have to be let go after this year, and then they'll
Yes.
bring somebody else in. And I think they need like kind of maybe a more get in your face type of coach, like not like not Mark Jackson, but like
Yeah.
somebody cut from that cloth who's like going to challenge Giannis, going to challenge these people,
Yeah.
and maybe just instill a little bit more backbone. Because I feel like I've said Coach Bud is like the master of panic 2.0, and it's mean,
Yeah.
but it's like it kind of fits him a little bit, and it's just
Yeah.
he hasn't been able to adapt in these games. Like you saw what Carlisle did. He brought in Boban. He's
Yeah.
like, and then Ty Lue was like, okay, I'll bring in Batum, and like there's these chess moves you make in a series,
Uh,
and that Boban move was genius. I loved it. I'm very biased, but
yeah.
and it was just like a desperate move in a way because they were like, we're fucked. So we got to do something crazy. So let's do this like Twin Towers lineup. And funny side note, I was reading that it was like the biggest lineup in a playoff game since the Mavs put out Rafe LaFrentz, Dirk
Oh man.
Nowitzki, and Sean Bradley.
Was that against Sacramento in 02 or 03?
I think it was 03, yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So that was funny that it was like the
Rafe
same.
LaFrentz. Dude,
Yeah.
he would sit there on that. I'll tell you though, he'd sit there on that on the wing and just take passes from Nash and just hit jumpers all day.
Oh, yeah.
That lefty stroke.
Yeah,
No, I
man,
mean,
it was fun to watch. Downey
And-
Nelson.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I maintain, and Kemp and I have gone back and forth about this. Kemp, if you're listening, notice how I didn't bring you up 12 times on this podcast because you're not just living in my head all the time. But
You really are living in Kim's head. I have to say. It's funny.
KD clearly has gotten the better of Giannis in the series. I still think, if I had to start a team, I'd probably start a team with Giannis just because he's a better all-around player. But KD, what this series, these first 2 games have really shown to me, Ben, is that like the gap offensively between the 2 guys is bigger than I thought it was. And it's like you're saying, it's as though, and this I think is because, and again, I'm not, this is not going to be said in, refined basketball terms. I'm just a dumbass like you, fellow dumbass. But like
Dumbass
KD
bros.
has been playing like a guard for so long that like
Yeah.
you don't even, it's like second nature.
It's
And
the
when he's,
sophistication to his game. It's like the mid-range arsenal. The
and when he, and
three-pointers.
the key with the mid range to me is like, can you shoot off the dribble? Can you take someone off the dribble and then pull? And Giannis, it's like,
He's working
when
on
he
it. He's
starts
getting there, but he's
dribbling,
not there yet.
he's not there yet. And it's like, it almost looks like sometimes he's dribbling like too low. His dribble is
Yeah.
like too, and he's like, it looks very awkward because it looks like someone
He's just
who
so
knows
huge.
they're
He's
not
like trying to
supposed
get
to
down low.
dribble.
Yeah, it's really
Dude,
awkward.
and like KD he dribbles a little higher and he rises up and it's all in rhythm and it's easy. And Giannis, the ball is like down near the fucking court. And as soon as he rises up, it just looks awkward, you
Yeah,
know?
he kind of does like it is a little awkward looking. I agree.
I almost wondered, should he go to what's his name? Dirk's guy? Should he go to Germany this
Holder?
season? Yeah.
Dude, he should, honestly.
Yeah.
He should go to like a shooting. He should go to him. He should like call up Dirk, and he should spend like a month in Germany and like, do all these crazy German drills, like wear a weighted diaper and like do all this crazy stuff that they do in Germany. Remember seeing like, well, Porzingis isn't German, but I think he had like a German shooting coach, and there was a picture of him wearing a weighted diaper at one point, and like playing and like working on his core. But like that's another guy who needs to work on his lower body.
Man, that guy.
Anthony Davis needs to do, like, people have been talking about it, but he does need to do something for his lower body so he doesn't keep getting hurt. I don't know what it is, but
it's been.
But I wanted to ask you. This is a complete.
Okay, can I just say real fast? You know what Dirk is going to do, don't you? If Giannis goes to him to ask for help, Dirk's just going to be like, "Come play with Luka, dude. All your issues will be solved if you come." Dude. And at that point, Ben Simmons, if Giannis and Luka got on the same team, I think we might have to both move to Dallas.
I mean, it kind of, I hate to say it, but
even though I have no desire to live in Dallas, Texas. I think.
Well, I mean, I gotta say, I think they might have missed their shot. Maybe down the line. I mean, because they're both relatively young. Maybe after this current.
Giannis is still 26.
Yeah, I mean, late stage Giannis with prime Luka. That could be a fun matchup. Yeah. I mean, that would be. You're right. That would that would be glorious. That's a title team right there. You don't need a big three. Be a big enough two for me.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, what was your question?
Well, okay. Here's my question. This is completely out. Now we're going to shift away from the NBA.
Okay.
And just at the tail end of this cast,
oh, no.
I want to ask you.
No, don't do it.
A football question.
Please don't.
And
go ahead.
Speaking of Milwaukee.
Oh no.
Speaking of Wisconsin, I got to do it. I have been burning to ask you.
Okay.
Your take. I have it written down right here.
You're asking me about AJ Dillon, right?
AJ Dillon, those thighs. Please explain your thought when you saw that picture. No, I mean AJ Dillon. Just as a little appetizer. Mm-hmm. Dude, the end of last year.
Yep.
And coming into this year.
Looked like a young Jerome Bettis.
Dude, he is going to be good fantasy player. I'll just say that, like, good flyer. He probably won't be that expensive in our draft.
Yeah.
I'm going to be looking at him.
It's interesting to hear you say that, by the way, because he doesn't strike me as typically being
he's
like
not
your
my
type
kind
of player.
Of player. He's not, but he's a.
So if you speak highly of him, that says a lot.
He's a war horse. He's he's the kind of guy you can, 22 carries, 120 yards, 3 touchdowns. Like that's the kind of no catches. That's the kind of line he's going to put up. And I'm just telling you.
No catches for the month of October.
Because Aaron Jones, they've proven they don't want to give him a full load.
No.
Sounds good.
And they shouldn't.
Yeah, they shouldn't. I mean, they want him to be like, he'll have his blow up games too. He had one last year or the year before where he was like 160 and 3 touchdowns through the air.
Yeah.
But I think AJ Dillon, a name to watch. But
I'm going to miss Jamal Williams, by the way, but I do think that Dillon and Aaron Jones complement each other well.
I'm going to miss Jamal Williams too. I always liked him. He was fun. He was a fun player to root for, I would assume, because he's just, all heart, all grit, left it all in the field.
Much more physical than Aaron Jones.
If he was a few inches shorter, he could have worn that leather diaper.
Yeah, he could have.
That
next to Miles Austin.
Miles Austin, what the fuck, Kim? Like, bizarre choice there. But anyways, no, I have written down here Raj plus Green Bay ? So what's your take, man? Because Kemp and I discussed it a little bit. I know. I'm sure you heard that, but like I am confused by the whole thing. But I will say, how much I love Raj. I'm a Raj diehard. I've had him on my fantasy team. Can't even count how many times I have.
Yep.
I enjoyed this last year. He was incredible. but these playoff exits have been a downer. And I think the coaching last year was huge reason why. I mean,
Yeah.
I do think, like the famous fourth down where they kicked the field goal. Some of it was Raj, a little bit. Some of it was. We can't deny that. But I do think the coaching has been awful. But my question is, like, what are your thoughts? Do you think he should? I mean, obviously, I would assume you want him to stay, but do you think he's going to be in Green Bay this coming up year? Is he eyeing for a contract? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
I think that the longer this goes, the more I think that it's going to resolve itself. Now, I will tell you, and I told Osborne this on WhatsApp, but like,
Fellow Packers fan.
would have been really easy to just fucking give Atlanta a second round pick and take Julio Jones, right? And
That was my
seemingly,
follow-up question. You just stole it out of my mouth.
sorry, but seemingly that would placate them
No, I love it.
at least a little bit. Here's the thing.
Why didn't they do that? Why didn't they do that?
I don't. It's been. I wish I knew, but Rodgers, the player, is incredible. Okay, Rodgers, unquestionably, by any metric you want to use, outplayed Tom Brady in that championship game. Tom Brady was really good in the first half, and he was really shitty in the second
He had
half.
3 interceptions.
And he ended up fine, right? He was fine. Rodgers, I think, was not on his A game, but he did outplay Brady. He also got bested by Tampa's defense a few times. I think that game, I did not walk away from that game. I mean, it's how I've always felt. I came away thinking, look, the better quarterback didn't win. Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback, but the better team did win because Tampa was better on that day. And I think what Tampa did in showing KC, doing what they did at KC, is they showed that they were just, their defense was awesome. Todd Bowles was the MVP of that team this year, right? And Tom Brady throws these little 7-yard passes, literally throws for 199 fucking yards in the Super Bowl, and then gets all the praise, which is fine. He was good. Look, Brady was good. I'm not gonna say he was bad. He was fine. He did what he needed to do.
Yeah.
He was better than a game manager. I wouldn't say he was like a stud, but whatever. This is not about Brady, even though I can hear Kemp just steam coming out of his ears right now. Rodgers was the MVP last year, literally the MVP. Tampa's defense got the better of him when it counted in that second half. I'll be honest with you, if they go there on fourth down as well as Tampa was playing, I don't even know that I would have said that they would have picked it up. But at the same time, in the second half, if Brady had been in that situation, he was so bad, I wouldn't have expected Brady to make a play either. I think both those quarterbacks at the end were just like looking for somebody to bail them out because those defenses had locked in so much. So all of that being said, okay.
That's fair.
I don't know if I were in Rodgers' inner circle that I would tell him to go about this the way he's gone about it, because I do think there are enough people who can speak on it pretty candidly now at this point who will corroborate this idea that he can be kind of a diva and he can be kind of difficult and he can be kind of demanding. So I am not going to just be like defend the way that Rodgers has played this. I will defend the way he's played on the field, though, because he won the MVP and he was easily the MVP last year. I thought he was the clear top player in the league. And of course I want him to stay. And I think that Green Bay has really misplayed their hand, because I don't think the things that they're doing, I don't think the things that he's asking for, Ben, are like insane things. I think he's like, but I do think, and I think this applies to Russell Wilson too, by the way. I think Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers both looked at the way Brady won that ring, and they both said, right, to their respective significant others, Ciara and Shailene Woodley there, wherever they are, they both said, I'm fucking better than this guy, all right? I'm fucking a better quarterback than Tom Brady. And this dude, I think they both think that. And they're like, this dude has an amazing all-star team, and he took a pay cut, and he played well. And I think that literally, you know how Russell Wilson like spoke out when you never heard him say anything? Remember that?
Yeah.
Dude, I think that was a direct reaction to Brady, because I think that just drove him insane to watch Brady just like dink and dunk his way to a Super Bowl, and Russell Wilson is like running for his life.
And then get
Um,
drunk on the boat afterwards, and
yeah,
yeah,
Which that part was actually that was
that
about
was pretty funny.
the most real Tom Brady has ever seemed to me when he was just like stumbling around. I was like, oh, he looks like he's on the third day at the lake house, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly. Have you seen the picture of Jimmy Johnson? It's like a meme at this point where he's like smiling and he's like Jimmy Johnson,
yeah,
the coach.
yeah,
He's like
yeah,
smiling and he's like dancing around like
yeah,
on some boat and
shirtless.
like
Yeah,
and shirtless and some boat and like who the hell knows, like
that was
Coral
T-Bone's
Gables or
go-to
something.
picture, I think, for a while.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it reminded me of. Like the picture when he was being like the guy was like taking him away, like his assistant or whatever was like kind of
Yeah,
dragging Brady away. He was like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it was you're right.
It's a
Day
mess.
3 of the lake house is a perfect description of that.
But no, I mean, do you think I'm off there? Like, obviously, I'm an established
Oh.
Brady hater. I think Brady was good. Okay, like slobbering all over what he did
You're a
in that
level
playoff run.
10 Brady hater. I'm like a level
8,
6.
7.
I'm
Yeah.
about 6 or 7. Like I I'm not at your level, but I totally can commiserate with you
Yes.
about him. And I also I can totally understand why he's so annoying.
Don't you
Um
think though, when he actually takes time and sits down and he looks at the fact that Brady had Gronk and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and an incredible
oh
defense.
yeah.
I mean,
The
Rodgers has to
defense
be,
was just nasty. And
and I think the issue
I think Sue got in Rodgers' head a little bit because
he
it was
did.
the same way during the regular season.
Yeah,
Like
he's always kind of had a thing to be able to do that. And it's interesting because, there's not many people who really can rile Rodgers up that way, but I think
yeah,
Sue
it's
has actually
weird.
been pretty he would do it on the Lions too, by the way. When he
Interesting.
was on the
Yeah.
Lions. But like,
Have a little history there. Yeah.
I think the issue is not for Rodgers, I think the issue is not B minus we're a B minus team and we need to be an A plus. I think he's annoyed because he looks at it and he's like, we were an A minus, and because you guys were so fucking cheap and insisted on drafting a quarterback in the first round and not being more aggressive in free agency, we didn't get to an A plus. And if we'd
Dude,
gotten into an A plus, then they win. And I feel like they played Tampa Bay much harder than Kansas City did, right? I feel
oh
like
yeah.
watching the way
Yeah.
that Kansas City looked so flawed in that Super Bowl. Do I think for sure the Packers would have won? No, but I would have liked their chances. And so I think all of that comes into play. I don't know that I would necessarily just sort of start pouting publicly the way that Rodgers has, but I also think he's an extremely smart guy. And my guess would be this is just a guess. My guess would be part of the reason he's doing this is because more than once he's done it behind closed doors and he's got no cooperation or he's had nothing he said has resonated, and so then he's thought, okay, if you're not going to like if the GM and the ownership and the sort of brass who make these decisions, if they're behind closed doors not going to listen to me as valuable as I am to this franchise, then I'm going to fucking go out and start saying it publicly, right? That
Dude,
would be my guess.
I am totally we're on the same page with this. And also I want to ask a question that I think a lot of people are asking, a lot of Green Bay fans.
Mhm.
Who the fuck is Mark Murphy? Like, who does he think he is? I mean,
Yeah.
he's a fucking executive for the Packers. This guy has an ego like I've never seen for an executive. Like,
Mhm.
first of all, that report that he was like, "Don't be the problem, Aaron." Like,
Yeah.
dude, know your role. You're a fucking suit. You're
Yeah.
you're in the front office. Like, you haven't made any good moves to help this guy. The best receiver he's gotten is like a second round pick, Devontae, or
Mhm. Who's great, but it's
who's
just one
amazing.
guy.
It's one guy. You have
Yeah.
never drafted a receiver in the first round ever.
No.
It's like you have a chance to get Julio Jones
Mhm.
and
Could have had T. Higgins last year, by the way.
yeah. Oh wow, that's a horrific. And you draft Jordan Love when
Yep.
you could have drafted another receiver. That's a T Higgins thing, right? They drafted Jordan Love instead of T Higgins.
Correct.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then he says I was looking at the news recently, and he said that like, oh, the drama has divided the fan base, and he's kind of like doing this like indirect thing, like Aaron's behavior has divided the fan
Yeah,
base,
no,
and
I
if it
know.
wasn't
I
for
read that.
Aaron,
Yeah.
and it's just like, dude, you are you're out of your depth.
Hmm.
You're like a 65-year-old executive president. Like, I don't even know why he still has a job. Honestly, I know player
Yeah.
empowerment can get out of control, but like this guy, the moves he has made to try to kind of like force out Aaron Rodgers when he's still, I mean, Brady's playing into his early 40s.
Hmm.
Kurt Warner threw up one of his best seasons in his early 40s. Peyton Manning broke NFL records when he was really old. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has a lot of football left, and it's just like, first of all, why are you trying to force him out? Second of all, why why did you draft Jordan Love? Like,
Yeah.
why did you fucking do that? Like, that was a horrible choice. That was a horrible decision. And third of all, why are you trying to create? Why are you trying to put yourself on his level? Like, it's
Hmm.
just like this egomaniac kind of thing to do. You're never going to be more beloved in Green Bay than Aaron Rodgers. Like, you're
No,
Mark Murphy,
totally.
you're an executive. It's just a
It's it's
bizarre.
it's
It's a
very weird.
bizarre strategy. I don't know what he's doing.
Well, and I think too, the player empowerment conversation is a separate one because it does get out of control sometimes, and
I
you
agree.
have people who are like, "Well, I hate the players, and I don't think they should be able to do anything, and I think they should just shut up and take their deals like it was the 1980s." And then you have other people who are like, "Well, the players can do whatever they want, and if they piss on people's heads, then whatever. Those people shouldn't have been
Yeah.
standing there, right?" You've got that kind of other extreme, but I do think that you're dead on with the idea of like,
It's been
okay,
a
and
long time
this
he's
is
been
true
putting up with bullshit too,
this
by
is
the
true
way.
in the NBA too, by the way, right?
Yeah.
There are about 5 to 7 guys, maybe you could even take it up to 10, okay, who are valuable enough that they have the right to be an asshole. And if
Yeah.
you don't, and by the way, I would put for a long time, maybe not still, but certainly for a while, Brady was in this category for sure, as was Peyton Manning. Maybe,
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm sure someone like him still thinks Brady's in this
Even
category.
Phil
Brady,
Rivers.
Brady has the right to be an asshole because of his value and what he can bring. And the idea that him being an asshole would hurt someone's feelings in the front office, it's like, listen, man, I'm sorry your feelings are hurt. I don't doubt that behind closed doors, Aaron Rodgers can be a dick. I think that Kevin Durant can be a dick. I think LeBron can be a dick. I think that Luka can be an ass. Luka is just a certified asshole. We already know he's an asshole. But like, you know what? When you're that good with the way that this entire thing works, you're exactly right. Sometimes you got to just say, you know what? This dude makes the throws in 3rd and 7, not you, right?
Yeah.
This guy throws like that incredible pass
Mm.
out of pressure, not you. And
Yeah.
so,
Just
I think that that's a big part of it. And I would add to that, Ben, you know, it's kind of an unprecedented situation because like it was awkward with Favre. Favre also wasn't this good at this age, right? He
oh
was
no,
kind of
not at this
like
age.
a sloppy mess. He had that one resurgent year with the Vikings, which reeked of, by the way, Tom Brady with the Bucks, where it's like he's being propped up by this really good team. But like Favre was kind of a mess by 2008, 2007, 2008. Peyton Manning basically had half of his neck attached when the Colts had to decide what to do with him. Yeah. So there are these situations where, uh, uh, and Brady was statistically, he was bad. He was not good his last year in New England, right? Belichick was correct in assessing that he wasn't very good. Now it looks bad because Brady wouldn't won a ring and Belichick didn't do well. I understand
And he
that,
had a
but like,
great statistical season
and he
with
had a
the
good statistical season,
Bucks.
right?
Yeah.
But like, there are these instances where players have fallen off, or you have reason to think that they've fallen off. And with Rodgers, he was the MVP.
Yeah.
He was the MVP.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the idea that you're going to try to force him out, like you're saying, it's just so fucking stupid. And I do ultimately think if I had to bet everything in my account right now,
Mm.
I think he's going to be on the Packers. I think they're
Mhm.
going to get it resolved. I think the fact that they haven't already traded him, I really think he wants some kind of concession. He wants some kind of move. He wants something, and I just don't see it. Now, I look, you look.
Like Julio Jones.
Listen, man, it was just right out there too. It's so obvious,
I would have offered a first round pick.
dude. It's
Fuck a
it's
second
so
round pick.
stupid. Whatever.
Julio
but
Jones.
It was. And by the way, I don't really love the Titans fit either, but that's another conversation.
That's a horrible fit.
That hurts our boy AJ Brown a little bit.
No, well, you could say it kind of kills him.
Yeah,
I don't know.
which
maybe
is
it just hurts him, but there's just not much to go around in that passing attack.
Yeah, but like if you figure that, okay, let's say he has a closing window. Well, let's say he has 5 years left. Either way, I just don't see this getting to the point where they sit there in July or August. And by the way, this maybe come back. Right, I'm putting this on tape. I know that I'm like dooming myself now. I just cannot see reading the headline, right? Again, cut to like the headline. Rodgers traded to the fucking whoever, Broncos. But I cannot see the headline where the Packers
play
are
golf
like,
with Elway or something.
All right, well, we're trading our 4-time MVP who's still just as good as he's ever been for, a bunch of picks. I just think I cannot see it getting to that point. And it is 100% like Rodgers is not blameless. Okay. But, someone like our friend Chris will tell you that he has created this situation and he hasn't. Now, has he put fuel on the fire of this tension? Yeah, of course he has.
I think it's accumulation, as you touched on, as we've discussed, accumulation of year after year after year. He never got. Now I can't even remember what was the last coach who was there for like 10 years. Jesus Christ, McCarthy. Yeah, I mean they butted heads, but all this like weird penny pinching and like horrible drafting and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean they're good at finding gems. I'll give them that here and there. And I know they're trying to they're in a different kind of market, they don't want to go into the tax, blah, 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 blah. I get all that. Maybe I'm thinking of the NBA. I don't know, but I understand their philosophy, their savviness.
Yeah.
But
they're not like the Saints. They're not, the Saints just start throwing money around.
Yeah.
Right? The Saints are reckless, but they need to be a little more like the Saints. Almost.
They need to you got a guy who's entering in the latter stages of his prime, even at the end of his prime. Or out of his prime, you got to start planning for now. You can't I get trying to get the heir apparent and everything, but actually, no, I don't get it at this stage. I think it was a horrible decision. I get thinking in the future, but come on, man, let's win a Super Bowl here. It's just title town. What are you doing? Why are you making these moves that are just head scratching moves that aren't telling your best player that you want to win now? You're just assuming that he's going to be there and just be this dutiful soldier when he's a competitor. He wants to win. And and it has been a total head scratcher for me just watching from the outside.
Well, and to me, and we can put a bow on this here, but we can wrap it up, but it comes down to what I always say with and we can I'll sort of circle back to fantasy here a little bit, but now granted we didn't have the lineup decisions last year because everything was just a free-for-all clusterfuck, but we'll be back to this year. And when you are truly going through your lineup, critical matchup, flex spot, the question is always, to me, if it's and you look at one of those sites and it's 50% say start this guy, 50% well, that didn't fucking help me, right? But
50-50,
to me,
what do I do?
To me, it's always which outcome will make me feel less dumb, right? So in other words, if player A blows up, how dumb will I feel? And if player B blows up, how dumb will I feel? And usually
I have felt dumb many a time.
Well, yeah, same. But usually I will take whoever would make me feel dumber. I play that guy. And I think there's a comparison to be made there with the situation with Green Bay, where it's basically look, if you started to spend a little more in terms of cap space and all the rest, could that potentially hamstring you a little bit into the decade, into 2025, 2027, 2029, wherever? Yeah. Yes, it could. But what would make you feel less stupid? Spending a little more right now so that you had a 5 or 7 or 8% chance more to win a Lombardi trophy, which is literally named after your fucking coach, by the way, Vince Lombardi. Or being no, we don't want to do that. We're sad. We need to just kind of play it smart. and then having a 5 to 7%. Like, I think if they made these moves and they still didn't win, I think Rodgers would be like, look, we tried, we gave it our best, and we didn't do it.
Yeah.
That wouldn't piss him off. What pisses him off is when they don't do it and then they throw up their hands. And so to me, that's why it's just imperative, if they really want to remain a relative organization, relevant organization and a relevant franchise right now, they have to do what he wants and they have to just go for it. And if, by the
Yeah.
way, if they go for it and they fail, it will not have been a bad move. The right move is to take the Hall of Fame quarterback, take the best quarterback, do what he wants, take your shot, and try to get that ring. Because he should
Yeah.
have more than one ring right now, you know, and he doesn't. And I don't think that's only because of the organization around him. He has not always
Yeah.
played well in the playoffs, but right now you can pretty squarely put it on the organization in this particular case. You know?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like it's been evidence year after year after year the way the moves they make and not surrounding him with enough talent. And I have to say, this is kind of a dark way to end it, but I feel like they've let some of these years, these like chances kind of slip through their fingers. Like this last year, like you said, like if they beat the Buccaneers, they have a real shot to win the Super Bowl. And the year before that, you know, they lose to the Niners team that ground attack was
No,
just
they were
out of
Niners were
control.
better. Yeah, Niners
Yeah.
were better.
But like you see what I'm saying though, like these great records and everything they're getting,
Yeah.
and like they're getting in the playoffs, and like
Yeah.
it's not easy
Yes.
to get to the playoffs every single year. And
Yes.
the last couple of years, I think you would even admit, not this past year, but the year before, they got some lucky breaks during the season, and that's why they had such a great record. And the record was probably better than what they were. They were a playoff team, but they weren't.
They weren't 13-3 good.
Yeah. So they're letting some of these these years slip, these opportunities rather slip through their fingers. But
yeah, and that's the perfect way to close it, because Rodgers' exact point would be, Ben, okay? His exact point would be, right? And compare him to Brady, compare to Manning, compare to anyone you want, right? If he starts to go back in reverse, all right? Now, look, last year stung a lot. That's probably going to be, all told, that and the championship game in Seattle, those will be the losses that sting the most in his career, right?
Yeah.
But, think about that game in San Francisco. Now, Rodgers would say to you and me and to his management, he would say, were we favored to win that game, right? Well, no, you weren't. Should we have won that game? Well, no. Think about the game where Atlanta blasted them, the year that Atlanta choked away the Super Bowl.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Was Green Bay favored to win that game?
Has Green Bay ever had a good run defense, by the way? Just a little aside, like Kaepernick destroying them on the ground. I feel like they've always just been giving up huge running game.
Yeah, right. Games. No, it's been certainly an Achilles heel for a long time. But
sorry to pile on there.
No, it's not. Listen, it's fine. It's June. Nothing. You can't hurt me. It's June 8th. But
I mean, we got. I don't. Who knows what's going on with the Niners? That's
look at the like all these playoff losses Rodgers has had. Right? It's not an excuse, but I'm just like, how many of them were they favored in? How many of those games were they favored? Now, they were favored against Tampa, right? And Brady's team won. Brady went in there and he won in Lambeau. And so there's some fine print there that says, okay, it wasn't just him, but like he went in and won. But there's a lot of games, right, where Rodgers was the underdog and he lost as the road underdog. And it's like, all right, there's a lot of games where Tom Brady has been the favorite and he's won. There's a lot of games where he's been the underdog and he's lost.
Tom Brady has had better defenses almost every year.
Without saying, goes without saying. Yeah, exactly.
You look at
it all goes back to team game, right?
Chris, you're not here to defend them. You're not here to defend them. Sorry.
Yeah. What do I say? Sorry, Chris. Chris, you got to eat. You can just eat shit and deal with this
shit sandwich and deal with it.
Football is a group project, like I always say. It's a group project in school. It's not just you. You got to rely on all these other people, right? Aaron Rodgers
more so than almost any other sport, I feel like.
Oh, it's absolutely more so than any other sport. Yeah, but
definitely not NBA. NBA is not.
And you know who was a terrible group project companion was Kevin King, right? Aaron Rodgers had to depend on Kevin King, that cornerback who was just, remember that guy who was just number 20? By the way, who Alvin Kamara was drafted over. They drafted Kevin King over Alvin Kamara. Thanks a lot for that, Green Bay. But no, it's a group project, and that's how it is, right? And Rodgers, this is what they sign up for, and they know this, but Rodgers and Brady and Breeze and Wilson and Manning and Luck, they're gonna get the praise or the condemnation that their team gets. And the reality is some of the time that's warranted, a lot of the time, in my view, it's not. And, Aaron Rodgers couldn't tackle Colin Kaepernick on that night in San Francisco, right? He couldn't stop Raheem Mostert when he ran for 4,000 yards in the NFC Championship game. And so,
God,
and you have to take those things into account. And I mean, if we circle back to the NBA, the reason you can at least put it more in the NBA is because the players are on the floor at the same time, right? Giannis shoots, then Giannis goes to the other end, and he's still there, right? They're there 100% of the time. And so, like, the idea of, well, LeBron does this, well, KD does this, well, Kyrie can't do this.
It's the reason Trent Dilfer has a Super Bowl ring.
Yes.
Did he, quote unquote, lead them to the Super Bowl? I mean, he was like below replacement level quarterback that year.
Trent Dilfer, here's our final take to go out on. Trent Dilfer is really not much different than Rasho Nesterovic, but they both have rings, right? And one is a quarterback in football, and one is just like
even with Spurs, Rasho?
Yeah, speed bump. Hey, he's got a ring and he played, right?
That is a good way to go out. Well, my friend, it has been a pleasure as always.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we'll be convening very soon to discuss a myriad of other topics.
Jamar Chase, get on the bandwagon, my friend. Jamar Chase.
Okay, you're gonna need to. We should do a podcast with you and Kemp where we just talk about like all the new players in the league, all the rookies and stuff. Because I have no fucking clue who that is, and I want to know.
I want you to imagine. I'm gonna get. This is really how I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna get you real animated here to end. I want you to imagine that Jerry Rice and Joe Montana. I said it.
Oh God.
Played in college together and then went to the Niners. That's how I feel like it could be with Burrow and Jamar Chase. Okay, not really. I mean, he's not going to be Jerry Rice, but like incredible connection. Jamar Chase, much better than Justin Jefferson at LSU in their year together, and now is going to what's your thing? The gritty?
The gritty?
Yeah,
he's going to do the gritty, dude.
I think. Well, they both did it.
They both did the gritty.
They both did and they do the hop.
I kind of like that dance. I'm not gonna lie. At first, I was like, "Looks like shit," and now I'm like, I kind of like it.
Yeah.
But that will be interesting. So he's more of like a possession receiver.
Dude, he's an everything. He's an everything receiver.
Deep. 3D.
Yeah.
3-dimensional.
Yeah. Literally didn't play last year. Didn't play last year because of COVID. He just took the year off and was still the top receiver drafted.
Smart.
He's that good. He's that good.
That's what I would do, man.
Now I've doomed him to a pulled hamstring in camp. But I cannot wait.
I hope Joe Burrow can come back.
And he's on track to come back, but I cannot fucking wait to watch Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase together. I think that's going to be one of the most fun storylines in the whole league.
The offensive line. That's what I'm worried about.
It's not great. That's going to be a little bit of an issue. It did not help Joe last year.
They need to install like the Greatest Show on Turf offense where they get rid of the ball like right when they snap it or something, because that dude's going to get killed. Or put him in the shotgun.
Yeah, and he was so awesome last year with the roster he was handed until he blew out his knee. Burrow was fantastic.
That was really sad when he got hurt. Honestly, that was
a bummer. Yeah.
It was. I'm trying to think of the NBA equivalent this year. I think Jamal Murray.
Jamal
Murray went out.
right?
When Jamal Murray went out, I was like, "Oh fuck, man!"
Yeah.
Because it's just like there was a lot more of the season left, and then in the playoffs, it like wasn't going to be the same team. Although they've surprised, but no, man, I hope they come back full strength. I can't wait to see that Yaman Chase. We'll get Kemp on the line, and we'll discuss the young guns of the NFL. And I can't wait. Until next time, my friend.
Hell yeah.
So gaudy. So gaudy. Gaudy stats. Gaudy stats. Gaudy stats.